High treason, organised by media and by marriage. Althorp House. Today is the 11th of August 2026, and Althorp House is currently open to the public. It really is a beautiful house with a fascinating history, and it's well worth a visit. I visited Althorp House last year on the 31st of August 2025. Reading Earl Spencer's memoir, A Very Private School, had prompted me to visit Althorp House. I recognised people in the photographs in the book, but I know them by different names to the names that Earl Spencer knows them by. And I also recognised in the description by Earl Spencer of the abuse that he'd suffered at Maidwell School, a type of abuse and harassment, a style of cruelty and torture that I too had been subjected to, and by the same criminals. Prior to 2024 and the publication of A Very Private School, there were only a few images of the person named as Peter Shand Kydd, Earl Spencer's stepfather, available on the internet. These images were available, and in this one he is allegedly with Lord Lucan's mother and escorting her from the inquest following the alleged death of the Lucan's nanny and the disappearance of her son, Lord Lucan. The way Lord Lucan's hair grows on his temples is an anatomical impossibility, and the Lord Lucan story is an example of fake news that has been architectured upon an entirely fake history. But after the publication in 2024 of this book that contains this image, the man on the internet previously described as Peter Shand Kydd, the trusted confidant of Lord Lucan and Lord Lucan's mother, was rebranded and demoted to Bill Shand Kydd, amateur jockey and brother of Peter Shand Kydd, stepfather of Earl Spencer. And after the memoir's publication, this image allegedly of Peter Shand Kydd appeared on the internet. If you're kidding someone, you're tricking them or deceiving them. And Shand is Cockney rhyming slang for sleight of hand. And sleight of hand means trickery, deception, kidding someone. So the name Shand Kydd could mean trickery. The Spencer family are targeted by organised criminals. Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl, and his parents have all been victims of organised crime. The Earl's late sister, Princess Diana, and his nephew, Prince Harry, have been and continue to be victimized and exploited through the media, through the law courts, through government, through marriage. This is organised high treason where no one is ever held to account. I know the identity of criminals in Earl Spencer's life who are currently committing crimes against the Earl. I first wrote to him in 2022. I've written to him 4 times, and last year, on the 31st of August 2025, I visited Althorp House and I left a note for the Earl with a member of his staff, but I don't think he received it. I explained to the Earl's employee that I knew the identity of people that the Earl had written about in his memoir, and that I knew the identity of Mr. and Mrs. Porch. Mr. Porch was the head teacher at Maidwell School, and he had abused the Earl when the Earl was a pupil there. The Earl's memoir seeks answers, and the Earl deserves answers. During the 6 weeks in the summer when Althorp House is open to the public, the Earl typically comes to the bookshop to sign books for visitors. Unfortunately, when I visited on the 31st of August 2025, he made a last-minute decision not to come to the bookshop, and so I was unable to meet him in person as I had wanted to do. Putting information online like this for the Earl is not my first choice. As I say, I have tried to contact him. Everybody deserves the truth. The Earl certainly deserves the truth. Indeed, the country needs the truth. Since trying to contact the Earl and putting into writing what I know, the criminals involved have committed extreme acts of violence against my husband and I and our sons, and the police refuse to investigate. I have had police and thugs break into my Oxfordshire farm and my London house and beat me up and beat my husband up. If you have seen any of my other videos, you'll see what's happened. And these two properties, my Oxfordshire farm and my London house, with a combined value over 40 million, are now controlled by the criminals that are robbing Earl Spencer. Thames Valley Police in Oxfordshire and the Metropolitan Police in London are refusing to investigate these crimes that they have perpetrated. It's trying to communicate with the Earl to tell him what I know about the criminal activity in his life and what I know about the man that he thought of as his stepfather and the woman he thought of as his stepmother. Forged county court and forged probate papers are being used to blackmail me. And government online systems such as HMCTS have been used to rob me and discredit me. And the government systems robbing me, such as Companies House and the Land Registry, are being used to rob Earl Spencer. For example, on Companies House, Earl Spencer is alleged to be a director of Falconry Productions Limited that shares its company number with two other companies. Thomas Tiles and Salisbury Presentations Limited with Falconry Productions all share 812533. But a far more serious illegality is the false listing of a Bank of Scotland charge or mortgage against Althorp House. Well, if you suspected that the banks are run by criminals, you were right. Lloyds Bank boasts 16 brands, and one brand is called Bank of Scotland. But Bank of Scotland isn't a bank, and it doesn't provide mortgages. Its own website, .co.uk, states Bank of Scotland are proud to offer Halifax mortgages. The brand Bank of Scotland didn't exist before it was incorporated on the 17th of September 2007. Therefore, the boast it has been supporting people for 320 years is false. This alleged Bank of Scotland mortgage involving Earl Spencer is a forgery. Indeed, all Bank of Scotland mortgages are forgeries. This one is supposed to be on my house. This Lloyds Bank brand forgery is on Gordonston School, where King Charles was educated. And what you're seeing is criminal collusion between Lloyds Bank and top public schools such as Gordonston. Lloyds Bank's robbery of Earl Spencer doesn't end there. According to the Land Registry, Lloyds Bank is the proprietor of Althorp House and Estate. And according to the Land Registry and Companies House, two dormant companies run from the Althorp estate, Althorp Nominee 1 and Althorp Nominee 2, are trustees with ownership of Althorp House. This Land Registry forgery uses the name Cotherstone Lodge and a false postcode of NN74HH. It is not legal for dormant companies to take ownership. On the government-funded websites Historic England and British listed buildings, the so-called Cotherstone Lodge is located in Harleston. There is no mention that this building named Cotherstone Lodge is actually on the Althorp estate and that it belongs to Earl Spencer. Government websites wrongly refer to the grounds of Althorp as Althorp Park, like it's a theme park. Other crime committed against the Earl includes him being listed as chairman of Cloud Valley with the wrong postcode of 4HG instead of 4HQ. Companies House forgery states Earl Spencer's farming business is in partnership with Everett and Everett, and Earl Spencer is a director of Everett and Everett. More forgery claims there is a 8th Earl Spencer Family Trust and millions are being paid out from it to various people. Someone called Piers Inkin is involved, and inkin is a forger's name for the person doing the forgery. They're inking the Earl's signature. Under 3 separate headings, Companies House cites Earl Spencer as having had directorship of 17 companies and being an active director of 12 companies. The company Staunton Properties has multiple mortgages using Althorp House as collateral. The details of the robbery of the Earl via Companies House and the Land Registry is discussed in a separate film. So, who was Peter Shand Kydd? I have known Jonathan Guinness since before my children were born, and my eldest son, Oscar, is now in his early 30s. Before Princess Diana's death in 1977, Jonathan Guinness told me that he was her stepfather. Jonathan said that he'd known Diana and Charles Spencer when they were children, and he had been their stepfather. Jonathan told me he had been Peter Shand Kydd, and that he had married their mother, Frances, but had not expected the inconvenience of Diana becoming a world-famous princess. And I asked him, did he have any fond memories? And Jonathan told me about an incident with a Labrador dog when Diana and Charles were quite young, and the dog, called Qantas after the airline, was said to have knocked somebody off a motorbike, and at Jonathan's suggestion, Diana and Charles' mother Frances had the dog put to sleep, and this caused much distress. Charles Spencer writes about the incident with the Labrador dog in his memoir. Prior to the publication of the memoir, as I have said, the online images of Peter Shand Kydd looked like this man. But when I purchased the Earl's memoir and I saw this image, I recognized Jonathan immediately. Earl Spencer writes about staying with his stepfather and his mother at a property an hour outside London called Hilliers. I know where that is. Jonathan and his brother Desmond Guinness both spoke to me of their hatred for the British and their anger over the fact that their mother, Diana, and their stepfather, Oswald Mosley, were both incarcerated in Holloway Prison during World War II. Diana and Oswald Mosley were Nazis and leaders of the British Fascist Party, and their descendants continue supporting Nazism. Jonathan likes to be photographed in other people's houses, or more specifically, his victims' houses, while they're away on holiday, for example. Makes him feel powerful. And here he is photographed in my house. My neighbour Mark Slater stands in the middle. He has stalked me and my husband and physically assaulted my husband. And in this image, he's credited with the alias Valentine Guinness. Mark Slater also uses the alias Scott Wewe as a director with Lloyds Bank. This is my farmhouse, Wyfold Grange, which was stolen from me on Jonathan's orders on the 7th of the 9th, 2023. Jonathan organised for Thames Valley Police to break in, and I was given blackmail in the form of forged county court documents alleging that the police could take my farm from me, and it said Holloway at the bottom as a little quip regarding the fact his mother and stepfather were imprisoned in Holloway during World War II. And Jonathan was taking revenge against me because of that. My father was in British intelligence in World War II fighting Nazis, and my husband, David Griffiths, his grandparents ran Yarrow shipbuilders and built Britain's battleships, which helped the Allies greatly in defeating Nazism and winning World War II. And for that reason, Desmond and Jonathan Guinness and their brother Max Mosley and all their descendants want to rob us and kill us. And they feel the same way about the royal family and the Spencer family. World War II did not end in 1945 for the Guinnesses and for the Mosleys. Desmond and Jonathan are collectively known as Jesmond, and on Company's House, their assets are on Mosley Street. On the deeds to my house, Wyfold Grange, you can see the names of Shand Kydd and Mosley. These are names used by Jonathan Guinness and his family and descendants and other fascist associate insurgents. The robbery of my farm and the theft of my land, the farm, the house, everything, all possessions by Thames Valley Police, that's worth about 40 million, happened after I had tried to contact Earl Spencer, and also happened after my mother-in-law, Angela Yarrow Griffiths, was murdered when two metal and inherently fatal stents were unnecessarily put inside her by a alleged doctor, and the 10-centimetre metal stent in her stomach, punctured her heart, and killed her. And the doctor that did that to her works at the London clinic where King Charles received a cancer diagnosis and received treatment for cancer. I would say that King Charles is certainly at risk from that doctor. We have been told that medicine was used to murder David's mother, Angela Yarrow Griffiths, because from Jonathan Guinness's point of view, my mother-in-law's crime was being the daughter of Lord Harold Yarrow and being the sister of Lord Eric Yarrow of Yarrow Shipbuilders. In this image, David's mother, Angela, has been erased and replaced by a boy doing a Nazi salute. Her brother Eric stands right and her parents stand next to him. This is a photograph on my Facebook of me with my aunt Eileen, and that image was taken without my permission and used when the Telegraph reported the death of Lady Mosley, Jonathan's mother. In World War II, my Aunt Eileen was in the Women's Royal Navy Service. She was what's known as a Wren. And while her brother, my father, was abroad working for GCHQ against the Nazis, she was targeted because she was my father's sister by Oswald Mosley's black shirts. And one of Oswald Mosley's men married my aunt, and he became my uncle. But my aunt never became a fascist, but she was enslaved. The Guinnesses published the Telegraph. Desmond and Jonathan Guinness both spoke to me about their anger towards the British school system. They said because of their mother and stepfather's reputation during World War II for being friends of Adolf Hitler, they could not get accepted in any school. Eton rejected them, and they had to be homeschooled. Because of that, they decided to take their revenge upon the English and take over the British public school system. Today, the Guinnesses have control over the British top private schools, and they target children of their victims, and they educate their own children in those schools. This is Desmond Guinness's kitchen at Leixlip Castle, and that's his cook, Eileen. This is Mrs. Judy Gracie. She is a member of staff at Stowe School, and Eileen and Mrs. Gracie are the same woman. This is Dr. Finbar Cotter at the Royal London Hospital. His speciality is artificial intelligence and oncology, and that is an alias that Desmond Guinness has used. And Desmond's grandson's name is Finbar. This is Desmond's son, Patrick Guinness. He uses multiple identities such as Mike Cain, MP, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Aviation, Maritime and Security Minister. I think the phrase is nice work if you can get it. And if you're a member of this organisation via multiple aliases, you will have all the top positions. In Britain, medics, doctors and nurses, solicitors and barristers, and the police all regulate themselves there's no independent scrutiny. For targeted victims, hospital is not a safe place. My husband, David William Yarrow Griffiths, was seriously injured when this battering ram was used and 14 thugs broke into our London house on the 8th of the 5th, 2026. They called my husband to come to the front door and then intentionally smashed the front door in his face, and the kinetic energy from the battering ram transferred through the door and into his body. It was an attempt on his life and caused my husband, David, to suffer serious head injury, cerebral spinal fluid leak from both ears, and deafness, and robbed us of our house. And I took my husband to A&E, to NHS Accident and Emergency, and they refused to treat him, and the record of our attendance at A&E has been removed from his NHS records. During the robbery, we were told it was our fault because we shouldn't have killed Hitler. The Metropolitan Police were involved in committing this crime, and subsequently the Met have refused to investigate. The police insist the forged county court papers that we were given that have blackmailed us, and the Lloyds Bank Land Registry mortgage fraud give them the right to beat us up and steal our house. This robber and attempted murderer who threw us out of our house works as a Royal Military Police officer, and he's a trustee at the NHS Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead. This is his biography. Paul Phillips works as a security manager at the Royal Free Hospital. He has had an extensive protective services career. This began as a Royal Military Police officer and has experienced every facet of the industry. Paul works closely with the local community, council and Metropolitan Police. He has a close understanding of staff to ensure they have a safe and happy working environment. The Royalty Police are no longer giving protection to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It's Prince Harry's birthright to be protected as a member of the royal family, and his family should be afforded the same protection. His mother, Princess Diana's life was lost after her police protection was removed. The BBC Martin Bashir Forgeries effectively blackmailed Princess Diana into giving them an interview she would not have otherwise have given them. And what we're witnessing is high treason being played out, and the British people need to see that. One reason why the royalty police are not protecting the royal family as they should be is because royalty protection police are busy spending their time committing crimes such as aggravated burglary and attempted murder against my husband and I, and the crimes committed against my husband and I have happened since we have tried to communicate with Earl Spencer. The royalty police operate from 16 Old Queen Street, London, Southwest 1A. 9HP, and that address is being used for money laundering, tax evasion, and shell companies. It's the address used for British Virgin Islands tax evasion company Gulf Merchant Group Holdings. So, who was Earl Spencer? Jonathan Guinness's job was to split up the 8th Earl Spencer from his wife, Frances. The seduction was already in full swing at the time this photograph was taken, and the 8th Earl Spencer must have had some instinctive understanding of that, hence this photograph. Jonathan's job was to seduce Frances and marry her, split up the Spencer family, get control of Frances's will and her assets, and leave the 8th Earl free to be married to someone who would, as part of a pre-planned plot, extort as much money as possible from the 8th Earl and take him to an early grave. The Guinnesses publish Burke's Peerage, and that allows them to create entirely fake lineages and peerages and give their criminal associates titles, such as Earl, Lucan, and Burke is an insult. We were all led to believe that Raine's first husband was somebody called Gerald Legge, 9th Earl of Dartmouth, and that she'd had 4 children with him. We are told that this is Raine's son from her first marriage, but I know this man. He uses multiple identities, including as a barrister. With such falsity, it is apparent the leg is ours and it is being pulled, because Raine's background does not add up. The 8th Earl's second wife was not the woman he thought she was. Raine's mother was supposed to be the romantic novelist Barbara Cartland. This image is a collage and not a genuine photograph. The person playing Barbara Cartland is far right. The person being Raine is far left. In the middle is Polly, Raine's alleged grandmother. Advertising tells us that Barbara Cartland was a prolific romantic novelist. The novel Lord Ravenscar's Revenge is very likely a nod to Max Mosley. The title Lord Raven is used by members of Oswald Mosley's family. Oswald and Diana Mosley's son, Max Mosley, pioneered Formula One motorsport and trademark law. And Max Mosley and his half-brothers, Desmond and Jonathan Guinness, have sought revenge. We're told Barbara Cartland authored over 800 novels. I don't think it's humanly possible for one person to write so many. There were a team of writers producing the Barbara Cartland genre, and Barbara Cartland was a brand, and Raine can be thought of as a brand as well. She was manufactured to marry Earl Spencer. The actress Olivia de Havilland was Raine Spencer. De Havilland's background is fictional and not credible. Both of her parents were supposed to have been living in Japan and have met each other there. Nothing about Olivia de Havilland's personal background really makes any sense. Although Olivia de Havilland is perhaps best remembered for playing the part of Melanie in Gone with the Wind, and she could speak with a credible American accent, she was an English actress, and probably her greatest performance, certainly her best paid performance, was as Raine Spencer. This is an image that is supposed to be the adult Olivia de Havilland playing Alice in Wonderland, who fell down the rabbit hole into a world of fantasy. But this is actually propaganda and a celebration of her deception of Earl Spencer. De Havilland was a Nazi supporter, and another of her victims was her fellow actress, Betty Davis. De Havilland's ambition is found in her name, Haviland. Have all land. These people are terrorists, and they have been fighting what they call a Nazi war of insurgency since 1945. They use economic violence and they marry into families that they want to destroy. Their ambition is to own all land. They have tenaciously tracked down veterans from World War II who had a prominent position during that period and have attempted to misuse medicine to kill them and their children where possible. A thumb between 2 fingers like this is propaganda denoting deception of the other party, and here that's Earl Spencer. The actress Doris Speed was the face of Barbara Cartland. Speed is perhaps best remembered as Annie Walker, the landlady of the Rover's Return pub in the long-standing soap opera Coronation Street, which is produced by the Guinnesses. We're told Coronation Street and its former stars like Doris Speed are as popular today as they ever were. Another Coronation Street actress was Betty Driver, and Betty Driver was Lord Lucan's mother. And Polly, who was supposed to be Rain's grandmother, can be seen here with two actors also from Coronation Street. Actor William Roach stands on the left. Coronation Street's William Roach was the face of the older Bill Shand Kydd, after he had been rebranded as the amateur jockey and no longer Peter Shand Kydd, stepfather of Earl Spencer. These images show the Coronation Street actors flying Qantas, the name of the dog that was put to sleep, and this group of terrorists own many airline companies. And the pollution they've caused is responsible for global warming. The Coronation Street cast visited number 10 Downing Street. The detail of the hands show two fingers, and that is a two-fingered insult to Prime Minister Harold Wilson and to number 10. And I have been told that Harold Wilson was Britain's last genuine Prime Minister. It appears that most, if not all, online images of Rain are not genuine photographs. In this image, Rain does not have an anatomically viable ear. And in this image, there is the same issue of no real ear. And an imprint can be seen of the dangling earring from the black and white image, and the colour image is just a reworking. And Rain's nose has been altered. A close scrutiny of this image and the centre where Rain's hand holds the Earl's hand reveals something very disturbing. Rain's thumb is transformed into the tongue of a demon or serpent, and a thumb between two fingers means deception of the other party. Rain's job was to harass the Earl and deceive him and harm him. This online image of the 8th Earl and Francis on their wedding day is a collage where a disembodied arm is sticking a sword or a dagger through Earl Spencer's head, and the second image is similar. These are propaganda images by the terrorists that have harmed the Spencer family, and I know the individual who has made this. Because Rain Spencer was a phony, and not who she said she was at all, she was the actress Olivia de Havilland, the testimony she allegedly provided to the 2010 inquest into the death of Princess Diana that was held 13 years late has zero credibility, and the whole inquest is just a joke. When A Very Private School was published, Charles Spencer gave a number of different interviews. In this interview with ITV, you can see that his facial features have been distorted, particularly his nose. Now, all presenters on television, news broadcasters, for example, are having their features altered, and the same for politicians. The video effect would have been done to Earl Spencer without his knowledge or permission. Why are media people disguising what they look like? Thick-rimmed tortoise-shell spectacles will also hide a presenter's appearance. Another interview Earl Spencer gave was with NBC News Now. The presenter is not credited as being Ellen DeGeneres, but that's who that is. Ellen, if you remember, was in some controversy and her show closed. She now lives in the UK in a place called Sonning, which is very near to Wyfold and my farm that was stolen, Wyfold Grange. The presenter was credited as correspondent Cynthia McFadden. Earl Spencer didn't know that the person interviewing him was Ellen in disguise. he'd agreed to have NBC News and their correspondent in his house, where he would talk about the difficult subject of being tortured when he was a schoolboy. His integrity, honesty, and bravery shines through. And what is he faced with? This lie, with Ellen faking being Cynthia McFadden. She's disingenuous, insincere, and despicable, and Ellen and NBC News need to do some explaining. And this inherent dishonesty can only mean the public cannot trust the media. The Earl and the public at large deserve better than this. Although we missed not seeing the Earl when we visited Althorp House last year on the 31st of August 2025, David and I had a wonderful day there, and we really got a big kick out of the redwoods, which do give a big kick, being that they're such huge trees. There was a redwood in the garden next to mine where I used to play when I was a schoolgirl, and I always enjoy redwoods. David and I would really appreciate anybody out there who sees this video. If you do visit Althorp House this year, would you do us a favour, please? And if you see Earl Spencer, can you ask him if he has seen this video? And if he says no, I haven't, can you get out your smartphone and show it to him? Because we know that he would want to see this, and that he needs to see this, and that there's so much wrong with Britain, and we have to start now, all of us, and right these wrongs. Thank you for watching. Follow us on Twitter, view our other videos on YouTube, and drop us an email. You just watched High Treason, Organised by Media and by Marriage.